Well, hey, Lighthouse. I am here with the Brady Bunch. No, I'm here with some very special folks. These are many of the young men and women that are somehow affiliated with our church that are kind of college age. I think everybody is in college except Emily Hudgens. Everybody high five Emily Hudgens. She has just completed college. Way to go. Emily, tell us how that feels.
I think I've slept at least 12 hours every day for the first time in like 6 years.
Yeah.
So I'm less of a zombie and more of a person right now.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's
Did
weird.
you have 4 zombie years?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep more than 6 hours on a good day for 4 years. It's fine.
It's okay. It's fine. You got good grades at least, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And what's your degree in?
Literature and philosophy with an emphasis in graduate school and teaching.
So does that mean you are qualified to stand in front of a group of people, read something, and then go, "What's it mean?"
Yes.
Yeah. I think you're going to be great at that. Those are some of my favorite classes I ever had. Okay, let's go around the circle as I'm looking at it. Ty Fitzgerald, tell us about where you're going. What are you doing?
So I just finished up finals at Boise State University. I'll be a sophomore this upcoming year, and I'm a kinesiology major with an emphasis in exercise science.
Nice. I happen to be very fond of one particular kinesiology major. That's what Tiffany did, and yeah. So okay. So the question for you is: have you stood on that blue field, that blue football field?
I have not actually been able to get on the field yet, but
that's the goal. Join the
yeah.
marching band, whatever you have to do, get on that blue field.
Definitely this fall. Yeah, definitely this fall.
Very good. Now, Amy and Ashley and Emily Combs, you guys are all going to be at CSUMB this coming year. So you guys are local. And what are you guys studying? Amy, what are you studying?
I'm studying business administration.
Yeah. Own stuff. Run stuff. Like, how long until you're the president? Are you gonna be right when you're 35? We'd all vote for you, just for the record. And Ashley, what are you studying?
I'm studying film production.
You guys are very impressive people. And Emily Combs, what are you studying?
Psychology.
So after Emily Hudgens says, "What's it all mean?" you can say, "I don't know, but we could talk about it." And that'd be an awesome partnership there. Yeah. And and Zach Hayes, where are you and what are you studying?
Going into my junior year at Grand Canyon University, studying business management. So.
Business management. Going into what? Your
junior year.
Junior year, yeah. So I would love to talk to you guys about Jesus and what it's like being somebody. I remember being your age. Pearl Jam had just released their second album. It was amazing time. But I remember being the weirdest time in my life in church, like feeling like you're out of youth group. All of you except Ashley went to a Christian high school too, so like that's not there, and kind of feeling like church was a difficult place to connect. Have you guys experienced that? Does that resonate?
Yeah.
This is going really great. Appreciate your guys.
I mean, definitely. I warned my parents about this, so they are prepared. So you don't have to pray for my salvation, Grant. I haven't gone to church in probably 3 years.
Yeah.
As soon as I went to school in Oregon, I attended a couple of churches with some friends, hated all of them, and realized that maybe church wasn't for me. Maybe I didn't understand what it meant. And so I actually walked away from that part of my life. I'm going to cough, so I'm going to mute myself. And instead, the school that I attended, Fox, has a great books program where we read through history, starting pre-Socratic, ending with like 90s literature, like from the 1990s, not from like, whatever. And so I spent 4 years focusing more on cultivating the intellectual side of my spiritual life and figuring out like, okay, is this even rational? Like, is this even reasonable? Is this actually what I believe, or is this what I was raised to believe? Because I grew up in a very Christian household, very Christian schools, or homeschooled, which is inherently Christian school if you grew up Christian. And going to Awana, church group, all of that. I mean, my high school English teacher was my Awana leader from elementary school. So the bubble was very small.
Yeah.
And I finally attended church again my junior year briefly for a semester, and then I ran away to Ireland, Northern Ireland. And I went to an Episcopalian cathedral in Portland and fell back in love with liturgy. And part of it was definitely the like shiny newness of like this church has like so much ritual. Like you stand up here, you pray here, you do this way, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, somebody's telling me what to do, thank God. You know? But I also loved how ordered it made my life. Because, you know, I'm sitting there going, okay, it's Wednesday, they have their prayer group. I can't drive to Portland because I have a test, so I'll just go to this prayer group or whatever. And so it was very like, there was a rhythm and a ritual, and I do very well with having a schedule. And so that was very good. But yeah, I definitely felt estranged from the church, starting probably in high school, but in college, it was like, bam, right in the face.
Yeah. And, you know, this is something that I try to talk about a lot, but it's hard to talk about it in a profound enough way to say, look, you guys, all of you were given faith as children, but the faith of a child is not gonna be enough for adult life. Like at some point it has to kind of fall apart, be reimagined. Something has to happen where you turn into not just a church kid, but a follower of Christ on your own. Just show of hands, how many others of you have like felt that like difficulty of that transition from like child faith to grown-up faith? Yeah. Anybody? Yeah, for sure. And you know, I mean, I am one of your parents, but I think all of us as Christian parents will go, that's great, like we want you to figure this out on your own. Amy, can you talk about that process a little bit? Like, is that easy? Is it hard? Do you feel, is it exciting? Is it terrifying? How's that work?
I think it's been a little like frustrating just because you like, I think going from a high school where it's like we have chapel every Wednesday, we're talking about the Bible, and like even if it's not specifically a Bible class, like, you know, Christianity like intersects with our classes like in every aspect. So going to NPC and kind of not having that same structure in my life has been very it's been weird trying to and I knew it was going to happen, but it's like until you get there you're not really prepared. And so also like as far as like my church, like there's no youth group, like I am the youth. And so so trying to find, you know, like make sure that I'm gaining and having a community has been difficult. I've gone to a bunch of different places and haven't really found where I felt at home.
Yeah.
And so dealing with that aspect, and then also going through like, okay, like what do I truly believe has been pretty like difficult. I think like barely now I'm like deciding that instead of being very passive with my faith, I'm like, okay, so like I'm really frustrated with where I am right now, and so I'm gonna do something about it. It's like this is kind of my last try before I decide, you know, do I want to give it up?
Yeah. That's super interesting. And I think I remember being there. Like, I don't, how do I say this? I was looking at some, not all for sure. There were great Christian adults in my life, but I was looking at some of Christians in my life that I felt like were super hypocritical and feeling like, I don't want to be that. Like, I'm either gonna like do this because I believe that Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, or we're done here. I don't want to fake this for, you know, the next 40 years or whatever. So like, do you have mechanisms to work through that stuff? Are there people you're talking to? Is it prayer? Is it books you're reading?
For a bit I've kind of like neglected reading the Bible. I've kind of like I think because I didn't realize till now, but I think I would distract myself with, okay, like let me do like this little devotion. Let me listen to someone else speak about the Bible instead of actually delving into the scriptures myself and having to confront it like head on.
Yeah.
And so now that I see that for myself, like I'm trying to not just read like a little portion, but actually kind of like sit down and struggle with the scriptures myself and see really like what is this talking about. And so I've been doing that for like the past week, and it's actually been quite interesting.
That is awesome. I can't agree with that more. Like I'm all for reading, the great minds in Christian history, but there's no substitute for just interfacing with the scripture itself. Yeah, that's awesome. Emily Combs, your hand was up. What's that been like for you? And I even know like there's been some like your college career wasn't as straight a line as you thought it was going to be, even though you've worked really hard and done really well. And I wonder if that's played into like, hey God, you remember me? Am I here?
Yeah. I think at first there was a little bit of that, just, when I couldn't, because I was at Cal Baptist for a year and couldn't go back, and had to transfer to MPC and then CSUMB, and it was just really confusing. And because school was such an important part of my life, and that was kind of the only thing that I was focused on, I was kind of like, God, I thought this was the plan. But looking back on it, I think that this has been a better thing. Like, first of all, like I'm happier here. I didn't really like Cal Baptist that much, so I think that he was providing for me in that way, even when I was fighting it. And also because I've been at like MTC and now CSUMB, both of them are pretty hostile towards the gospel, towards Christians in general. Like other religions, not so much, surprisingly.
Isn't that funny?
But, yeah. But I've had a couple of classes where I'm like, oh, I don't think they like me that much. So that has kind of like made me think about, okay, I admire this professor as an intellectual, as an academic, as a, person in the professional world. How does that, like, how can I mirror that in my own life? Do I have to abandon my faith, or is that something that can you be a smart person and also love Jesus type of thing? So yeah, but I think I'm kind of on the other side of that now, where I'm like, yeah, you absolutely can. So.
Yeah, I remember being your age. By the way, your brother just texted me a TikTok, which is what that ding was. That's what's going on. Yeah, but I remember like Chesterton, John Stott, later like John Lennox, like reading some and the mystics, like reading St. John of the Cross, reading Teresa of Avila, like and kind of going, oh, like anytime older Christians were worried about me, like when I was growing long hair and starting bands and stuff, they would give me like simple books, like here's 3 ways you can trust God. And I think they were worried about my like where I was, and so they were always trying to like give me easy on ramps. But that's what I was tired of, was easy on ramps. I wanted to know if faith could withstand engaging fully in intellectual life. Like, is there an interior intellectual life that's appropriate for faith? And that I think that's the thing that is the challenge of your early 20s, is you are all smart. And let's be honest, 10 years ago you weren't. Like 10 years ago you're in junior high and you're just having all those junior high things, and all of a sudden you've gone from Matchbox cars to driving Ferraris intellectually, and you got to figure out if faith can withstand that. Ashley, what's your journey been like in all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Christian high school. I went to Monte Vista Christian, so I had that Yeah, so I had that whole support system, and then afterwards going to NPC and being completely out of my element and kind of out of the Christian bubble, I guess you'd say. It was weird, but it was also during that time I was also trying to find my own church, because I was leaving my parents' church, and that's when I came to Lighthouse. And then after that, I went to Biola University for a year, and there I really like found my community. I found my people and everything like that. And then I had to leave because of my health after there for a year. And then coming back is like a weird transition of going back to NPC and then planning to go to CSUMB. And I started looking at other college groups because I knew I needed to have that after being at Biola, because I was out of the Biola bubble. And I thought that I had to stay like at my church. I thought I couldn't venture out to other churches, and it was like a really confusing time for me because I don't know, I felt like I wasn't being, I don't know, faithful to my church or whatever for going to other churches. And I remember reaching out to a few of my old high school friends who were like really passionate about God and like wanting me to go to their youth group. And I'm like, that's an hour's drive away. Like I can't do that. Like that's insane. And after lots of conversation with parents and with them, like my parents like practically pushed me out the door to go with them because they knew that it would be something that would be really beneficial to me because I went to high school in the Santa Cruz area. Like I know that area like back of my hand, and they knew that the people there I'd connect better with because my parents say I'm kind of like a Santa Cruz type of person. And once I started going there, it's like as soon as I got there, it's like I immediately found my people. Like it was just like I knew them for a long time and yet I just met them. But like throughout that whole process, it was like really confusing and really hard.
Yeah, and I think we would all say community, for lack of a better word, fellowship, koinonia, whatever we're talking about deep connection with each other is really important and really difficult. Is that right? Like that's, and it maybe is never harder than in the situation you're in. And so Ty and Zach, Zach, you're at a Christian school, Ty, you're at Boise, but you guys have both found good like Christian community at school. Ty, tell us about that. Like you've found some dudes.
Yeah. So, originally I was at the University of Hawaii, and that was something I definitely wasn't expecting to have such a small community of Christian people. And I'm like, this just isn't working for me. So I left, went to Boise, and then just immediately, like the day I remember checking into my dorm, and the guy who was checking me into my room was my RA, and he happened to be Christian, and then just introduced me to a whole just bunch of people who suddenly I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like clearly I just remember that day distinctly, like, man, this obviously wasn't an accident. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just, and
so
sorry.
Can you articulate like, why is that so important to have those? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 18 or 22 or 52, we need Christian friends. Why has that been so important?
Well, I mean, for me, it helps with that, like just that sense of community, knowing that I have people that I can rely on and go to for advice or just hang out with. And it's been really nice having that and knowing people that I can have to count on. And it's been way better.
That's awesome. And Zach, you at Grand Canyon have really found, like it seems like you've grown like a weed and really found some guys that you're growing alongside. And tell us about that.
Yeah. So kind of like Ty, at GCU, we have life leaders kind of at Trinity, I guess. And my life leader was the first person I ever met when I moved in. And he's just a guy a couple years older than me, super strong in his faith, studying to be a pastor. And he's just been a huge mentor. And when he kind of was introducing me to the school, he introduced me to his group of friends, and they're all super strong in their faith and all run life groups, off campus, on campus, open to anybody. And it's just been super beneficial to have people around my age kind of just be leaders like that in a way. Most of the time it's people like adults, like our parents we look to, and they're starting life groups and whatnot, but not 21-year-olds. So that was just beneficial. And yeah, just getting plugged into those groups early, like, really helped the stay away from like the college norm, I guess, where everybody's trying to please everybody. Because I just was staying grounded in my faith when I was with those people.
That's awesome. So let me ask this, like, for those of you that have said, yeah, it hasn't been a super straight line, there's been doubts, there's been struggles. Have you been in places where you felt free to say, I'm not sure I buy this, or have you felt free to make the internal, like, doubts or fears or struggles, like, public?
I can chime in on that real quick. Feel like one thing that's kind of funny is everybody, I feel, has the same feeling that they're going to be shunned if they say they're doubting a certain part of Christianity. But I feel almost everybody I've ever talked to when I've brought up doubts that are older than me have gone through the same thing. So I feel it's just a normal thing to not have to. You can question certain things that somewhat don't make sense, and then just go research them and figure out like that most of, like, pretty much everything that you have doubts about is going to be true. And it's just, I don't even know if that answered the original question, but just kind of don't be afraid to like ask questions and everything.
Yeah. I wonder if you guys could give people my age advice, because, you know, I don't really know anybody that doesn't say, if somebody in their early 20s came up to me and said, hey, can we hash this out? That would be the greatest thing that ever happened to me. You know what I mean? I would love to do that, but maybe that's not super obvious. Like, how do we be better about connecting in that way?
I think what I have found most helpful is when I've gone to specifically one of my professors, God bless Bill Jolliffe. I probably spent 3/4 of my college career crying in his office and being like, I don't think God loves me. I think I'm going to hell. And he was like, okay, let's talk about this. You know, he's a sweet older Quaker man with this like giant beard. He plays the banjo. He's very chill. He writes poetry. And I'm like some angsty 20-year-old crying that I'm going to hell. And he's like, I don't believe in hell, but let's continue talking about it. And what I appreciated is he was very honest about his current doubts and his current things that he was questioning in his life. And he's in his like mid-60s. And so hearing him affirm that this is normal, you're going to doubt things that feel foundational to your faith. And you're going to continue doing that. Like, this isn't just, I'm 22 and I'm angsty. This is welcome to the rest of your life.
This is the way. Yeah.
And so I got more comfortable having doubts and being confused and not feeling like, I don't know what I believe about, like, is universal salvation right? Or is Calvin right? Or is this right? Or who's right about like hell and purgatory and heaven? I don't need to have that figured out in order to advance in other places in my faith. It isn't like, here's this roadblock that I'm now stuck with.
Yeah. You know, the thing that was so helpful for me, and I think it was John Stott, who, you know, John Stott is just one of those authors that just is so in love with Jesus that it's infectious, you know? And that like move from, I have to have my entire systematic theology figured out, to I just have to know Christ and trust him and let all this other stuff. I remember that being in my mid-20s, being a profound leap, to saying, oh, no, it really is that I trust a person, not I have all the answers. That's tough. Emily, Emily, you've had some good mentors and that sort of thing, Emily Combs, but have you struggled with that too? And you have this, you and Amy both have this terrible problem of being raised by pastors. It's a burden not many have to bear. But you know, are there places where you feel free to have doubts and fears and questions and whatever, or is that tough?
No, I think I've been able to voice those whenever I've had those doubts. The thing that I'm always like cautious of is like I'm usually not trying to start an argument, you know, like I'm not trying to sound disrespectful. Like I don't want to come after someone's faith when I'm voicing my own questions. And so that's like I have to watch like how I word things. But I think I don't know, I think my grandma's been really great because she's like the sweetest lady ever and like loves Jesus like a ton, and I can be like, hey, I'm mad about this, and she's like, well, let's talk, you know. So it's yeah, I think there's been a lot of people just at church and in my family that I can talk to.
Yeah, let's even talk about that. How important I imagine it is hard, am I right in this, that it's hard to connect with people who have families, have careers, or in their 30s, 40s, like those? That's a difficult group of people for you guys to have access to. And is that right? No, Ashley, you say you feel like you have good access to us old fogies in Christ.
A lot of my friends are way older than me. I don't know, because of having cystic fibrosis, you're kind of you have to grow up fast. So it was often really hard for me to like connect to people my age until like the past couple years. Then I've been able to connect better, but pretty much I've always been the type of person that's had friends who are like way older and have families and everything like that.
So for the rest of you, like what are you guys looking for in a church? Like how do we be a church that is, and this is a very, I understand, not one answer to this question and something that nobody's really mastered, but how do we be a church where you can be in a season of life where you're wrestling with truth and still be loved and feel like you have a home there?
Well, I've gone to like several groups where I felt like if I wasn't a part of their church, then I couldn't be a part of their youth group. So
funny.
It's like I've gone and it's kind of like I've been in the corner because like people don't really like have acknowledged me at all. So that's been pretty discouraging when it's like I'm looking for community because I'm struggling with these doubts and stuff, and it's like, well, there's no like nobody seems that interested, so I'm just like I just kind of leave discouraged by that.
That sucks. That is not a good experience. I think we've all had those. That's no good. So how important is like connecting with older Christians? Not older meaning aged, but you know, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Is that important to you guys, or?
I think we all need role models. Yeah.
And do you guys feel welcome to just go to an adult Bible study? Does that feel like a comfortable thing to do?
I think I would feel weird a little bit. Like I want to go to an adult Bible study. Like I don't want to be in a Bible study with a bunch of like 18-year-olds. No offense, 18-year-olds, but I think a lot of the questions and doubts that I have right now, I wouldn't want to bring to somebody who's fresh out of high school because I don't want them to be going, oh God, what do you mean? Like there's different versions, you know? Like I don't want to like bring all my issues and then frighten them or whatever. But I think I feel a little bit like I don't want to be looked at like a kid because I don't feel like a kid.
Come on now.
But I feel like I'd be treated like a child. Like if I tried to go to like my parents' Bible study, it'd be, oh, there's Brian's kid. And I'm like, hi, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Take me seriously.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like Amy was saying, I have to not know anybody and just be like fresh out the gate in order to be seen as an adult.
Yeah, Amy, you look like you have some comments on that. And I want to let you say them, but you know, that's such a bummer. I know the hearts of the old folks at church we are we would be invigorated and so enjoy your guys' company in a Bible study. But I can see what you're saying. It's just very hard to set something up because it plays into all of our insecurities. I know the hardest thing about when I had volunteers working in youth groups is you walk into a room full of high schoolers, you feel all the same insecurities as when you were in high school. Like you could be 50 years old and walk into a youth group and go, that kid doesn't like me and that kid over there is going to be mean and whatever, like it's all the same insecurities as when you were there. And I think that there's some of that with college age people too. Amy, you had something.
Well, I think Emily hit it like right on there. Yeah, just feeling like a kid, or like, I don't know, everybody sees you as like, oh, what are you gonna do in like with your life, and
Yeah.
like they're like, they see like a young 20-year-old that's like has their life ahead of them, and so when you're like, but I'm dealing with this, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
So
hey buddy, do you like sports?
Yeah, so it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think too also like people not expecting that I have like such deep concerns about like even though like for Christianity, like it's like I don't want to, like I've gone to groups where it feels like very like surface level things.
Yep.
And I'm like having like I love talking about like theology and stuff, and that all really interests me. And so like when I'm with people that are around my age, like they don't really seem that interested, and they're still very like basic topics. And so for me, I'm like, if I'm struggling with this and I'm going to like these like young adult groups and stuff, I don't feel like I can truly like share what I'm dealing with because I don't feel like people really understand.
That makes perfect sense. Ty, have you found a church in Boise?
I have actually, yeah.
And is the connection mostly with people your age, or have you met some mentory older folk, get invited to house for dinner kind of friends?
More so, I would say just kind of people my age. And I would say the reason being is just because the church we go to has definitely done a good job to try and just make sure that like we understand the meaning of church, and kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's like they said like, it's never promised that it's going to be easy, like this journey with faith. It's in fact going to be hard, but what is promised is that no matter what, Christ is going to be with you.
Yeah, come on.
So, and I'd say part of the reason why it's been easier to connect with kids my age, and especially with friend wise, it's, we have a Bible study, and it was like the first or second week just going around and hearing everyone's story about faith and their testimony. It was nice to hear like, okay, not everyone is perfect, no matter how much they're able to put it off. Like, no, they're not gonna live a perfect life. They haven't lived a perfect life, but
yeah, that's excellent. Just as I think about because you guys are my favorite people. I still feel like I belong in a dorm room at 2 a.m. going, but what's it all mean? Like, those are my favorite conversations. There are so many like practical things in the way, aren't there? Like, so I used to be really involved over at CSUMB's Bible Club. And, I went and spoke there once this last semester. And as silly as this sounds, like the thing starts at 8 o'clock. I'm speaking at like 9 o'clock, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. like we're not having a Bible study at 9 p.m. and then like dealing with family and stuff. Even those little stupid practical, like, a college life is different than kind of a career life or whatever. And so, we need to find a way to fight through that. Zach, are you finding there in Arizona some folks older than you as well as the buddies your age?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of the like leaders in our church are in their 60s, 70s, and even our worship team is like older, and they're just super open and like able to talk to anybody.
That is an excellent thing. May Lighthouse be like that. Well, all right. I feel like we're just getting started, but we're about out of time. Will you guys come back and do this again? And next time, let's actually kick stuff around. Like, let's actually like be bold enough to go, here are the things, and we won't come down with solid answers maybe, but we'll share and be open together. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Hey, you guys all know how much I love you. I'm grateful for you. Hey, Lighthouse, these are not just our little brothers and sisters in Christ, but these are our peers in our walk of faith. So let's those things that are in the way, let's do all we can to get over it and make some relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.